Peter,
Yeah. How are
what
you?
is up, man? How you doing?
I'm good. I've been looking forward to this.
Looking sharp, looking sharp.
Always.
That's straight out of Reston. So, let me start with now. You were wedged in between my brothers, right?
Hmm.
And
Yep.
class,
Graduated 91.
yeah. So Chris was 90, Troy was 94, I guess.
Yep.
But it seems like you hung out with Troy more, right? Is that
I went up and yeah, and I mean I think we played a little bit of basketball together, which would have meant that he beat me in basketball a lot. But but yeah, I mean, you know how it is. At South Lakes, you just sort of hung out with everyone.
exactly? And somewhere Troy had the cheat code to hanging out with the older kids.
Yeah, yeah.
So
So yeah, good guy along with you, and yeah, I'm really really excited.
well, one of the things that I found, I lived all over the country, but we moved to Reston in when I was in 10th grade.
Right.
And I'm friends with everybody that I went to school with in any place that I live, but there seems to be something special about Reston where high school friends stay high school friends for the rest of
Totally.
their life.
Yeah.
Well, like I have my opinion on it. Why would you say that is? What do you think that attribute that to?
I'm not sure. I think honestly it was the parents. That's what I think I have a 16-year-old and I'm friends with a lot of his parents, but I think that in Reston it just seemed like I mean it sounds cliche, but the community of it and the parents were all just cool,
Yeah,
and I
yeah,
mean, the funny thing is you probably go through the same thing. I'm still friends with parents of kids that I hung
right,
around with.
yeah, yeah.
And
And I think the grand experiment worked because the spectrum socioeconomically was so broad,
yeah.
but everybody just got along fine. So you graduate. Well, first, can I pay homage to the grand dame
Yeah.
of South Lakes? Your mom, Liz Knapp. I think that is also a major common thread. Is that no matter whether you're my years or your years, everybody loved Liz. That must have been a blessing and a curse to have mom running the show over there in the principal's office.
It was awesome. I mean, I always joke to people that like see my last name and are in Reston, and then I mean, I'm just Mrs. Knapp's kid. So
To this day, you're a grown ass man.
yeah, and I'm proud of that because I guess it could go the other way if you're
Yeah,
not.
yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah. I guess that definitely could have been way more of a curse, but you probably
Yeah,
couldn't get away with too much either.
yeah, and so yeah. I mean, I didn't do too much wrong, I guess, in retrospect. But whenever I did, I got caught.
Congratulations on that. So you graduate, you go to William and Mary, graduate, and get into litigation. Is that
Yeah, what I did was I wanted to be an attorney. So, or more specifically, my dad wanted me to be an attorney, and I didn't know what the heck I wanted to do.
right? Right.
So, majored in English, got a job at a law firm at Tyson's Corner, and I was a paralegal for 3 years. And I decided pretty quickly I just didn't want to be a lawyer. It just wasn't for me because I frankly don't like to argue that much. And but what was cool was at that time there was a business line referred to as litigation support, and it was basically when two sides are involved in a lawsuit, someone has to copy and scan at that time all of the documents involved in it. So when I decided I didn't want to be a continue as a paralegal, there was a company called Icon that hired me, and they did the lit support for that law firm. And so I was a customer service rep for them for a year. I really liked it, loved the service aspect of it. And it was funny looking back where Arlington, Alexandria was unexplored, and I got quote unquote promoted to head up Arlington, Alexandria. And what I realized in the rearview mirror is they just put me out there because they were like, well, let's see what this kid can do, but there ain't nothing out there.
Ah, got
so,
it, got
so
it.
I got very, very lucky where I hired this customer service rep named Steve. There actually was stuff out there. No one was focusing on it. So I did that for about 3 years. I got very lucky where I met a guy who actually went to JMU named John Atkinson, who's still one of my best friends. And we actually decided to go out on our own. And in 2002, started a company called Prodocs, which was professional document services. And we did litigation support for Northern Virginia law firms. So, you're in your early 30s. You don't know. I thought I would be doing that for the next, 40 years.
Right.
And We started with about 8 people, got really big really quickly because frankly, there was no DC firms focusing on Northern Virginia. So we went from 8 people to about 60 within 3 years, and a bigger company bought us.
I
So
got you.
that was a huge blessing, but it was also, you were saying earlier, things being blessing and a curse. The blessing was that obviously you get purchased, and then the curse was you had to work for the company that bought us for 2 years, and then I had a 3-year non-compete. So I worked for the company for 2 years from 2006 to 2008, and then real estate at all just kind of interested me. So I got involved in real estate, but frankly, with the intention of sitting out my non-compete and starting another lit support business.
Right.
So I do real estate for about 3 years till about 2009. And number one, I really liked it. But number two, the whole lit support business changed very drastically and very quickly and went from pretty much all paper to mostly electronic. And that was sort of my ball game, was service, being available 24/7,
Right.
coming through for people. And so I just made the decision, let's just stick with real estate. And I've been in it ever since.
Right, but let's talk about that because you're entering the market 2006, 2008 to nine.
Ooh.
That was a tough time for the market.
Yeah.
What was that entrance like for you? Because you know what, I essentially did the same thing. I got in as it was hot, but it was on the downward trend.
Yeah.
What kind of what was that atmosphere like for you to be learning and the market changing for the negative?
It was in the rearview mirror. It was a blessing because frankly, I never had it easy. There are a lot of agents will tell you, 2004 to 2006, you just put a sign up, no problem. So
Right,
what was kind of cool was, in a certain sense, I didn't know any better. So
right,
what I did was I got involved, and I got very good at foreclosures and short sales. I just had to. And
right.
so I got good at those on the listing side. And then I have a contact who knew a lot of investors. And I just said to him when the market turned, I said, hey, these foreclosures and short sales are looking pretty good. I got good at them, like how to strategically put buyers in the best situation possible.
Right.
And that sort of got me by till 2012, 2013, when the market corrected a little bit. But it
Right.
was crazy. And it was great because there are all these agents that viewed everything as a pain in the rear.
And you
And
didn't know any better.
I didn't know any better.
Yeah, you hadn't picked up any bad habits.
Right.
Everything was new to you. Who were you working with at the time? What brokerage?
With brokerage, I was with Remax Gateway up until about 2012. And there's a gentleman that I was really grateful for. He owns a really good settlement company in Vienna. And actually, he owns the one in Vienna. His name's Todd Condren. But quick shout out to him because it's Echo title, but they were specifically negotiating short sales. And he was really, really good at educating me on those. And, in those days, no one knew what they were doing.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so you just learned as you went. But it's not like it is now, but there are some, when you're an investor and you can, you aren't as emotionally tied to the house, you can really put yourself in a good position. And
Right.
so what's cool there is I developed a lot of loyalty from investors, that I helped get good deals to this very day, where they know and trust me. So it was cool.
What was the hardest part? Like, let's say the first 6 months of jumping into real estate.
Not knowing anything. I mean, it's what I'm very sensitive to with new agents now is all brokerages try to train new agents, but structurally, I don't think too many agencies as a whole are set up for new agents. I always tell people now, and I mean, I joke about it to new agents that I know now. I'm like, I look back at my first 6 months, 3 years in terms of knowing exactly what I'm doing. You have to have pretty much someone sitting there side by side with you, ready for your calls, ready for everything, and almost going into clients with, hey, I'm new. And, this is Peter Knapp. He's been in the industry 16 years. He's going to be helping me because it's probably a lot with the lending. There's no training manual.
Right, right. And it's a credibility issue for something so major because it's the most emotional and financially important decision that most people make. And when you're new, they know you're new. So why fake it?
Yep.
So you have to, ironically, even though Troy's 8 years younger than me, he was in the business. So I had to lean on him.
Okay.
And he had the credibility. So that's like, yeah, I had the address book. He had the knowledge. So it's like, Yes, I'm just getting into the business, but he knows what he's talking about. So that's great advice that you're giving anybody who wants to get into the business, because it's not for the faint of heart either.
Oh no, that's another thing, frankly. I'll shoot it straight with you. I'm all for positivity and optimism, but I think sometimes people just aren't educated to how rough this job can be. I mean,
Yeah,
it's a grind. You have to, if you do it the way that we like to do it, you're 24/7. You are always there for people. And I think sometimes agents end up failing because their expectations aren't set correctly. And I try
right.
to always, I always tell people, if I were the king of real estate and everything that went on, I would say you have to join a team for 2 years. Just join the team, learn from
Right.
the team leader, negotiate the splits where it's a win-win, and then after 2 years, you just say, okay, do you want to go out on your own, or has the team leader created a world big enough, to have you in it, which is the ideal.
Right. Because if you jump in with your eyes open and you get your hands into everything, that's probably the best way to learn.
Yep. And you
Yeah.
just have to experience everything.
Yeah.
And,
Right. Right. So you're doing well. When do you decide? When do you make the decision? Because that's a hard decision to make when
yeah,
you're like your own show, and then you say, "All right, well, it's time for me to have a team." Like,
about 2012, 2013, I think usually you get to yearly sales of anywhere from 15 to 18 million, and you realize you need help. So that's a separate thing in real estate where one day, when I got nothing else going on, I'm going to write some sort of book.
right.
Just because one of the things of this career, I love selling real estate, but I also like helping younger people. And again, in the rearview mirror, you just you you just have to fail forward. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? You hire an assistant, you don't really know what to do. You collect a lot of different advice from agents, but the challenge is that will those agents do a team that, the way that you'd like to do it?
Right.
There are a lot of different models. So around 2012, 2013, I got an assistant, I got an agent who was just sort of my side by side, and then kept growing and growing and growing. And then I think that it's the same as just starting out as an agent. The biggest challenge is being available for your clients, and then also being available, for the multiple hats of owning your own team, owning your own
Right.
business, training the people on it.
Right. Because the two big decisions are, okay, I'm going to have to give up part of the money I'm making
Mm-hmm.
to hire somebody, but I'm sure it doubled or tripled your efficiency and
Yeah.
income because you had somebody doing what's called the lower turn activity,
Yep.
and you allowed you to go out there and bring the rain. And then the other thing is just personalities. Like
Yeah.
you have to find somebody who's going to, like if you have an assistant who's answering your phone, you want them to represent your brand,
Yep.
the Peter Knapp brand, right?
And
And so, how many people do you have on your team now?
right now we had a lot of turnover in the spring where I had my team just four awesome people where I had one at the end of 2021. I had one listing support person with me, one operations manager, and a gentleman by the name of Oliver Bissy, who was my right hand man for 4 years, a lot like little brother,
Right,
and just I mentored him. And then from January to April, two people had to move, had life situation changes, moved out of the area, and the other one got a job that they went to. So the Peter Knapp Realty Group went from Four to Peter Knapp for about a month.
oh, that must have been tough.
It was tough, but the other thing is too, you know how it is. You can either sit there and say stuff happens, crime, I spilled milk, or just go out and freaking get it.
Right. And you had the muscle memory to say, all
Totally.
right, well, this is how I did it back in the day, and I just got to go back to doing it.
100%. And the cool thing was I got training from a place called Elite Real Estate Systems for 2 years out in Omaha. They're awesome. It's this guy, Jeff Cohn. He's the best trainer coach I've ever had. And the cool thing is I know how to do it. But the thing was we were a lot like a family. That's kind of how I operate. And
Yeah,
so
yeah,
it was if someone's got a better opportunity or they have to move out of the area, and obviously it's disappointing, but that was
right.
probably the biggest challenge with it. And then but then it was kind of neat where I was kind of back to square one and everything was coming to me.
Yeah.
And so now actually I got very lucky where I already had a young lady named Kylie who was coming on in May to work actually for Oliver before he left. So she got promoted.
Oh, immediately throw her in the deep end
Yeah, exactly. So
with no floaties.
yeah, so for about 2 or 3 months, she's just been right next to me doing everything. And so I feel like, it's crazy right now and it's really, really busy, but it's very, very cool because one thing someone will tell you, it's a good learning experience in life and everything where nothing goes like you think it will.
Yeah.
And what I've learned, and I shoot, probably the last 3 to 5 years, the biggest thing I've had to do is sort of mature just as an overall business person and as a person
Yeah.
getting more patient with things. And I just view this as kind of like another test. And right now we're in real, real good shape because we have two other people that are sort of getting ready to come on board. And since COVID started, it was sort of us trying to figure out everything. Now I have everything figured out. I just got to kind of plug in the pieces.
And how did you navigate through COVID?